What up, nerds? Bujo Head Jody here. I have been bullet journaling since 2017, and I would like to share May 2021, my monthly spreads, with you. So we're finally marginally caught up. I am recording this in May, so improvement. So one interesting thing that I have decided to do is that I am using a pre-made color palette for this. So I use these markers, and they come in these certain packs, and so this marker set is all from one pack. So I think they're all kind of supposed to go together anyway. I kind of wanted like an actual palette, and I didn't want to put it together myself, so I was feeling lazy. I decided to go with the presets. I am using my fine liner here, and I have switched it out for a new one. So you can see I'm going over some of the lines that the old one was just running out of ink. Wasn't making them as steadily. So you can see I go over some of them. Always nice to use a nice new pen. And we're going pretty bold serif font for the large May lettering. I think that might be the only actual lettering that I do. The rest, everything is just lowercase. So I am also doing a little bit of a doodle here. It's not quite a theme per se, but it's just one little doodle that I'm doing over and over again. There's not a whole lot of empty space in these May spreads, being pretty economical with them. But in the empty space, I am putting these little cups, and I'm going to put some boba tea in there. If you've never had boba tea, I recommend. And this is pretty simple. Just draw a little cup, include the little straw, and then you will see later my method for filling everything in. And those were all drawn very freehand. They're just cylinders. You don't need to be a fancy artist to do that. So it's nice to throw something down that will make use of the color palette, but that will, be pretty simple to throw in wherever I have some extra white space. So for the very first page, that's where I'm putting my calendar. Now I like to put my finance total spread on a right hand side, and this month I didn't want to make a cover page, so I'm actually putting my calendar here, and I am using the very simple calendar. I'm just writing the date and the day of the week down. There's not a whole lot I put on this calendar. It's usually like maximum 3 things in a day, so this type of calendar is just simpler for me to put together. I am highlighting the weekends, so I get a little bit of just sort of intuition of where the weeks are actually situated. And I do start my weeks on a Monday. So those double lines, and here you can start seeing the color palette that I'm using. The marker sets are my trusty mild liners. And I'm also gonna throw on a drop shadow around these rounded boxes. Give a little extra flair, but not, you know, too much more. Yeah, this, I'm not doing the outline to those drop shadows, so it takes a whole lot less effort. Recommend. So you can see the technique here for the boba, the bubble tea, is draw the outline of the cup, then I fill in the color. I'm kind of doing little wavy lines at the top, but it's a very low effort little doodle. And then later I will go in and fill in the little boba at the bottom, the little pearls. And I have and then on the right hand side here, I've got a little mini calendar so that I can actually see sort of the shape of the month. I'm gonna throw in this drop shadow. And highlight the weekday names. Weekday names, yeah. I haven't completely figured out how I'm doing all the colors here, so that's why I'm hesitating a little bit. Making sure I've got my spacing correct. I think I have little markers in there, but sometimes it's tough to tell exactly where I should be putting my words. So this is pretty standard. If you've seen any of my videos before, I've got 3 sections, assets, debts, and then my targets. Assets are stuff like my checking account, my savings accounts, and then debts are basically all my credit cards, which I pay off in full every cycle. And then my targets are what I want to spend for like my, discretionary budget and how many hours I want to work at my regular job. So you can see here I'm kind of just trying to decide how I want to put the, handle these colors. I was thinking of maybe alternating colors, but I'm going to stick to one color per section here so that I can vary the drop shadows. It ended up coming out really nicely. Right, and so then each section has the start amount, or for the targets, the planned amount, and then the end amount, or for the target section, the actual, and then finally the difference between those two, or delta. And then that little box at the top right there is the overall delta, which is actually only the everything added up between the first 2 boxes, because that last box has, hours data, which doesn't have anything to do with amounts, and then the budget, I would be double counting a lot of things. So you can see here I've actually, so each drop shadow is the color from above. And then I'm using these colored fine liners to define where these columns are. And I've tried to pick out colors that are the closest match. I couldn't find things that were absolutely perfect, but especially from this distance and just at a glance, it looks pretty good. So definitely happy with that. So now we're going to go back in and fill in the boba, which this is just pretty random. Tried to keep the size of the tapioca balls consistent with the size of the cups, and to try not to draw too much of them. So very cute, very colorful, very bubbly, kind of good for spring going into summer. And then the second pair of spreads. Start off with those rounded rectangles. And then I lied earlier, and I have one more title that we're doing a little extra lettering on. Nothing super crazy, but I do get to draw a fun ampersand. So these two sections are the hours and budget, which is essentially everything that is summed up in the previous spread. So this is where I write down all my transactions, all my hours for every day that I'm working. And this is pretty typical spread for me. I did, so in previous spreads of these, I have actually had my budget spread take up 2 full spreads. In general, I don't need that much, but I have definitely run into some times where I run out of room at the end of the month, and it's very frustrating. So in the past, I have just bit the bullet and made it a 2 full spread. But this time, I think because I was able to count out the number of days I really needed and when, and make sure that I gave myself a bit more room on that right side. I think I'm gonna be good, even though I do have a couple more transactions than I even normally do, or than I have been normally doing. Yay, COVID. So I was able to put both of these on the same 2-page spread. So now you can see the yellow section is going to be for recording my hours, and then this sort of salmon color will be for anything I do with my budget. So paying rent, paying off credit cards, paying for Netflix. And then so I'm going in with these matching fine liner, colored fine liners. And marking out the different columns. And then we will label those columns. So for my hours, I use date, hours, total income, and increase. And then for my budget section, the columns are date, amount, account, total, description, and budget. The budget one is a running total of everything that I consider part of the discretionary budget, which is pretty much anything that is I'm paying for that's going out, except for rent. Because I know how much rent is. So we're going to go in with some contrasting colors on the drop shadows. And then we're gonna do the teensy little bobas. They're very cute. And that's basically it. This is a pretty easy spread. Not a lot of monthly spreads for May. So that's all. We're gonna put our little tab on. It is that light blue. And I will see you later. Thanks a lot.